Hello. So, you have a big beard. Can you hear me, so? Hi, Abe.
You look like you're in Canada or somewhere.
Well, no. I'm home.
You're home? Okay, nice background.
Hi, Chaim.
Hello.
So, are you muted? So, okay. So,
Oh,
can you
now,
hear me?
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what happened there. Good
Oh, you're
evening,
in the
gentlemen.
beach, I'm in the mountains.
Huh?
You're in the beach and I'm in the mountain.
Yeah, but I'm on the beach and I don't have a heavy coat on. You're in the mountains with nothing.
Hmm. I like the snow.
Abe, where are you? Can't hear you.
I'm on the other side of town. It's nice
Oh,
and wet.
Chaim, good evening. I went to get a cup of tea,
Hello.
maybe. Home.
So your beard has gone white completely.
What can I tell you? I'm getting older.
Hmm.
As long as I'm on this side of, as long as I stay on this side of the grass, I'm okay.
Okay.
Oh,
But it
Good
doesn't.
evening, Ernie.
it looks like you see, we have cookies. Let's show you the cookies. Here, look.
Susie, save me one. Thank you, Susie. Sorry.
That's okay.
Let me just send an email to everybody because I forgot to send an email.
So they know when it is.
Huh?
I send the message a few days before.
You get a text? Okay.
Yeah. Mario, you're right. You got it.
How many sweaters did you like?
Yeah. very
I think we were at 216 Yalkut Yosef.
No,
Yes.
215, but whatever you say.
Yeah.
You did the Mishnah Berurah, I think.
Right. We said the Mishnah Berurah,
Yes.
the Mishnah Berurah said, "Uvelo shas hadchak," if there's not an emergency, skimu arbei ma'akorim shelo lasos ke, not today, not to do heiche kedusha ki ikra takana isa medina lispal mitchila balachash barkach b'koram, because The Iker Takon of Shmon Esrei is everyone should say a silent Shmon Esrei first, followed by, a vocal repetition. Doing Heichei Kedusha doesn't follow that. And also the Yalkut Yosef writes against the practice of Heichei Kedusha. The fact that there's a custom to daven a short mincha b'li chazar shliach hatzibur without the full, chazar hashatz, ein minhag zenachon lefi halacha. He says it's not a proper minhag, v'chova levatlo, and it should be abolished. Ulam im yesh minyan mitzumtzam. If you only have 10 people, mitoch asar yeshnam kama anashim she'einem muganim. Let's say these aren't the most attentive people who will listen to answer Amen. Shaloyatu ozen kashevet lishmot chazar shliach tzibur ulanu samein. They're going to drift off. They're not going to answer Amen. Yesh ladif bofen kazel ispal fil shmona esra achas. So then he says it makes sense to daven one shmona esrei together. Bein b'shachris ubein b'mincha. He says even in shachris. Ukasheisha minyan shel yirei shamayim. But if there's a minion of righteous people, because mispar gadol or a large group, there will always be at least 10 people listening to the shots. Then a person the tefillah should not be heiche kedusha. It should be a full tefillah. B'lachein chova kedusha mutelas al roshei yeshivot levatel mashanago bekam yeshivot ledaleg al chazor shliach hatzibur. That the yeshivas that are trying to save time by doing heiche kedusha, they should nullify that. Ulazra Torah liyoshon lani chazor shliach hatzibur. It should be a full shots. Kedakon is going to Israel. V'yamdu ala mishmar. And that everyone should answer Amen to the brachos. Based upon the Ramah, the Mishnah Berurah Yalkut Yosef, it seems that the practice of a heiche kedusha may only be used in cases where it's almost sunset, or there will be less than a minyan attentive to the chazar hashatz. However, it's difficult to understand how some yeshivos and minyanim at workplaces recite the short mincha with the heichei kedusha as a regular practice. What's the basis for it? Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky in the Emes Yaakov suggests that perhaps the requirement to recite chazar hashatz never applied outside of a shul, of a formal shul. Meaning, if you're at a business place, you're at a hotel, at a wedding, you're at an external place, not a shul. So there, Rav Yaakov wants to say that this original takana, where everything should be done first silently and then with the chazar hashatz, that takana only is operative at a shul. The original takana was only in a shul. And that's where the unlearned would go, who didn't know how to daven. They knew there'd be a chazan there, so who would be motzi them? He says in the base medrash where there were only Talmidei Chachamim, so the whole concept of chazar hashatz might not have been created. You would just have a silent Shmona Esrei, and that's it, because you didn't need a chazar hashatz for people who were not baki. So that's Rav Yaakov says. Zeu atam shebarbei shivot einam chozrim at mincha shebebeit hamidrash lo hayta hatakana klal. The takana of having a silent followed by a public Shmona Esrei wasn't established as a takana. Rak b'shachris chazru atfila afil b'beis hamidrash mishum smichas kula l'tfila. Now, in the morning, you have to be somech kula l'tfila. She'ef shalem lafsik lachar kol Yisraelu. They wouldn't be able to listen to the shots because that would be a hefsek between Goal Yisrael and Shmona Esrei. To have smichas begeula l'tefillah, you have to Goal Yisrael immediately say your Shmona Esrei, Lashul Lishma, Chazar Sashatz. So according to Rav Yaakov, since the primary intent of the institution of Chazar Sashatz was to allow those who were unfamiliar with the text to fulfill their obligation by listening to the Chazan, it was never required in places where everyone is proficient in reading. The Piskei Teshuvos point out that most poskim do not agree with Rav Yaakov. He says if it's not an emergency situation, there should always be a silent Shemona Esrei followed by a Chazar Shashatz. Those who follow the Ari, he was very makpid on that. By mitzvah lispal betikun chazal, afin matchilin tefillah lachash somach l'shkiyas hachama. Even it was right before shkiyas hachama, and they wouldn't finish. Right? Right? They wouldn't finish until after the shkiyah. He would be makpid not to do a heiche kedusha, but rather do it with the saying a complete silent Shemona Esrei followed by the Chazar Sashatz. That's the Ari. So we saw above that according to the Ramah, when this practice of a short Amida is utilized, the congregation should recite the Shemona Esrei word for word with the Chazan until the end of Akel HaKodesh, and then continue silently. Although the Kolbo implies that the Chazan recites the entire Amida aloud, the common practice is to follow the Ramah and continue silently after Akel HaKodesh. The Bir Halacha, who is the Chafetz Chaim, addresses this point further and notes that some Achronim support reciting the entire Amida aloud as per the Kolbo. Nevertheless, the Bir Halacha suggests an explanation for the Ramah's understanding in the common practice for the Chazan to be silent after Akel HaKodesh. B'lachash ad lachra Akel HaKodesh, ayin b'prima kodim shiskim t'lechatchila, roy l'tzibur l'ispalim ashatz mila b'mila adachar shemet tefillah. Mikra din, the kahal should say word for word with the shots. That means he should be reciting it out loud. Umoidim v'hein b'lachash, v'ashatz yomer akol b'kol, v'chein b'levush, mashma d'ashatz yigmar tefillah b'kol, u'mebir agra. So you're talking about big guns here. The Prima Godim, the Lavush, the Gra seem to suggest that by Heche Kedusha, the person should not be silent after Akel HaKodesh, but should recite the whole thing out loud. And we should say Mila b'Mila. However, the Bir Halacha says, Va'olam ein nohagim kain. Everybody's quiet. Most of the practice is that the tzibur actually does not begin at Shemona Esrei until after the shots finishes Akel HaKodesh. We don't recite word for word with him. Rather, we wait until he finishes and we start again. The Kachalam we can't catch up with him. So look at footnote 26. Although the Ramos states that the tzibur begins the silent Shemona Esrei together with the Chazan, the Mishnah Mura writes that if time allows, it is preferable for the tzibur to begin their silent tefillah only after the Chazan completes Akel HaKodesh. That's our minhag. Most of us, when we do Chei Kedusha, we're silent. The Chazan starts. We say Kedusha. He says Akel HaKodesh, and then when he goes silent, we start taking our 3 steps back and beginning our Shemona Esrei, and that's what the Mishnah Berurah says that's what's preferable. This is the basis of the same as the Halacha that the tzibur commonly waits to begin the silent Shemona Esrei until after Kedusha. So look at that. It took until the last footnote to show our minhag. This is our minhag. All the other minhagim was not like us.
The question why with Ma'or is there no Chazar Sashat? If it's important by Mincha.
No. Bernie asks why there's no Chazar Sashat by Ma'ariv. So Ma'ariv is only a reshus, right? there was only a takana of 2 davenings. Shachris, Keneged Avram, and Mincha Keneged Yitzchak. Yaakov Avinu was it says Vayivga b'makom, and there the Gemara says he was Masakin Tfilas Ma'ariv, but the Ma'ariv is not a chiyuv. Ma'ariv is a reshus. Now we have accepted it as a minig of Klal Yisrael to say Ma'ariv, but that's the basic understanding. It does. We don't have the chiyuv tefillah as we do for Shachris and Mincha.
I understand you're explaining.
That's why women. There's some women who've taken upon themselves davening, but they daven Shachris and Mincha. They don't daven Ma'ariv because it's only a reshus for men.
I understand because they're drawing the analogy to the others.
No, not just the others.
That, but it's
And it's not a chiyuv.
just from the point of view of those who are not Talmidei Chachamim. The Hazaras Hashat was still important so that they could hear and listen to.
Yeah, no, but there's there's a reshus. It's a reshus only, and that's why.
If he forgets Myra, he doesn't have to make it up then, right? If he forgets Myra, he doesn't have to make it up.
We do have tashlumim for Ma'ariv.
Why? Because if it's a rishus, why would you have to
Because
make it up then?
because
No chiyuv.
the early poskim said that even though the Gemara says it's a reshus, Klal Yisrael has accepted it as a chov. Not to the same extent as Shachris and Mincha, but that's why there's tashlum. We're going to see.
But Ernie, stupid question. But if it took
No
to
stupid
the last,
question.
if it took to the last footnote to say how we hold and what we follow, why
Yeah.
put it in a footnote? Why not? Is it a preference of the editor or what's going on here?
Because look, it was said in the Bir Halacha, and he didn't bring the Mishnah Berurah 124a, which technically they should have brought that because that's l'chora most of our minhagim. I mean, that's how we Ashkenazim do in Chutz La'aretz. Maybe in Eretz Yisrael they do differently, but this is most of us know this is our minhag. Does anybody here have the minhag to start reciting the Shemona Esrei along with the Chazan when he does Heiche Kedusha? Yeah, so nobody's raising their hand. I mean, that's not my.
I don't, but the last few minyanim, I've seen quite a few people doing that. Surprisingly.
Right, but that's because they don't know. They haven't learned through this sugya, and realized the Mishnah Berurah says it's preferable for the tzibur to begin their silent tefillah only after the chazan completes Hakel HaKod. It's certainly not wrong. The other approaches had its adherents, the Ramah, the Pri Megadim, where you would recite along. But the problem is the chazan goes silent then by Hakel HaKodesh, so you'd have to go silent as well. So it doesn't. The whole purpose of it was that you would recite it along with the chazan because he was reciting it aloud. So that minig doesn't have really a leg to stand on anymore. Because I don't know of any Heiche Kedusha minyan where the chazan continues aloud the whole way. He goes silent as well, right? Okay, so someone just mentioned tashlumim. That was like a cue. So let's go to page 233. Where we're going to learn the dinim of tashlumim. Tefillah is referred to as an avoda. As the Gemara in Taanis states, which is the worship of Hashem that is performed in the heart, you must say that it's referring to tefillah, prayer. We also know that the beginning of korbanos in the base of Mikdash is also referred to as avoda. With regard to korbanot, if the offering is not brought on the proper day, the operative principle is avar yomo batal korbono. If it's days past, the offering is void. But as we shall see below, the principle may not be entirely true when it comes to tefillah. Rather, there are times when Chazal permitted a person to make up a missed tefillah of Shemona Esrei in conjunction with the next tefillah. This tefillah is called tefillah's tashlumim, a compensatory prayer, which makes up for a prayer that was missed. the tashlumin is allowed because the tefillah of Shemona Esrei is classified as racham, a request for mercy. Chazal felt that appealing for mercy is acceptable in the form of tashlumim, even when the original tefillah has been omitted. In this shir, we will study some of the halachos of tashlumim, including the circumstances in which a person may recite such a tefillah and how it is recited practically. So the source of the halach of tashlumim appears in Masechta Brachos, in the section dealing with the various prescribed times for tefillah. According to the Gemara, possibility for tashlumim is viable when the omitted tefillah and the following one are both on the same halachic day, right? Tashlumim for chakras during the time of mincha or Ma'ariv during the time of chakras.
Ma'ariv is not the same day.
No, the same. Remember, Vayera, Vayuvoker. So a day is Ma'ariv, chakras, mincha. That's one calendric Hebrew day. So meaning, if you miss Ma'ariv, the tashlumim would be chakras. If you miss chakras, the tashlumim would be mincha. So that's already into the next day.
Yeah.
So that's why it says here, tashlumim for chakras during the time of mincha, or Ma'ariv during the time of chakras. The Gemara wonders whether it can ever be used when one omitted mincha and the tashlumim would be at Ma'ariv, which is considered the next day halachically. It's exactly what Bernie was asking. V'amar Rav Meri, Braid Ravuna, Braid Rav Yirmei, Barav, V'amar Rav Yechidan, Tov lo yispal arvis. The person forgot Ma'ariv. Mispal b'shachris shtayim. So chakras, you would say two Shemona Esreis. If you miss chakras, mispal b'mincha shtayim. Right? That seems very clear from the Gemara. If you miss chakras Shemona Esrei, you would say two Shemona Esreis by mincha. So iboilu. So the Gemara asks the question: Ta, v'lo yispal mincha, ma'ash yispal arvi shtayim. Can you daven two Ma'arivs? Im timslor tam v'lo yispal arvis b'stal chakras shtayim mishum dechad yoimahu. Why is it that you say two chakras when you missed a Ma'ariv? Because it's all on the same calendric day. Tiksiv fayi erev vayvoker yom echad. Aval hacha. Tefillah b'makam korban. Tefillah has been established. There's a pasuk that says par u'nishalma parim sfasenu, that we shall fulfill the parim, the cows, with our mouths. So the tefillah have been established instead of korban. The kivin to over yom batal karbano means you have to bring a korban a certain day, and you missed it, and you don't have the korban is lost. Odilma, or do we say maybe kivin the tzlusa rachmehi, since tefillah also has mercy, compassion, davening. Kol emes daboy matzli v'azil. Maybe you could have tashlumim. Even if you miss mincha, you could have tashlumim mar. So toshma. Damar bar Yudam Rav Yitzchak Rav Yechlan Tavla Ispal mincha. Ispal alarvish tay. Gemara says there is tashlumim. If you missed a mincha, you would say two Shemona Esreis mar. Ve'ein bezeh mishum de'aver yom batal korban. It's not a problem. Yes, it's the next day in the Jewish calendar, but it's not a problem. Meisvei. Me'uvat lo yuchal l'takein. Something that is crooked can't be straightened. The chisaron, a deficit, lo yuchal yimano, cannot be counted. Me'uvat lo yuchal l'takein zeh shebat l'kriyas mashal arvis v'kriyas mashal shakos. What's considered a mistake that can't be corrected? You missed Kriyas Shema. O tefillah shel arvis, o tefillah shel shachris. So it appears that missing shachris or Ma'ariv has no tashlumim because it's an example of me'uvat lo yuchal l'takein. It's a problem that can't be corrected. How do you resolve this what appears to be a contradictory baraisa? On Rav Yitzchak and Rav Yechlan, hach mayaskinon shebatel b'mezid. So when do we say that Ma'ariv and Shachris don't have tashlumim if you purposely missed those tefillas? But if you missed it b'shogeg, you would have tashlumim. Or Rav Ashi, Dekanami, I will prove it. We can see it from the language itself. Diktani, batel, v'loktani ta'ah. Ta'ah is a language of shogeg. You made a mistake. Batel implies that you did it b'mezi. Shmami, no, it's a good proof. Okay, that's the sugya in the Gemara. According to the conclusion of the Gemara, tashlumim may be recited even when one missed mincha and recites Shemona Esrei twice at Ma'ariv, despite it already being the next day or in halacha. Nevertheless, the Gemara distinguishes between one who forgot to recite a tefillah and one who intentionally did not recite it. While someone who erred can utilize the option of tashlumim, one who intentionally did not daven has missed out and has no option for compensating for the tefillah he missed. Now, what is the definition of intentional? If a person was simply lazy and thus failed to daven, is this considered having omitted the tefillah intentionally? The Nimuke Yosef writes that one who planned to daven but miscalculated the amount of time needed for his other activities and did not recite the tefillah in time is not classified as a mezid, as an intentional sinner, but as unintentional. Says the Nimuke Yosef, Amra Mechaber, nearly Bor, the Mishlo Ispala Ba'ot Sheyesh Lo Zman Lispala. Someone didn't daven because where there was time to daven. He got involved in some kind of work that he figured he could finish and still have time to daven. But then he was mistaken. And then the time passed. That's not called a mezid. Eino nikra mezid u'poshea. You would be allowed to have tashlumim if that was the circumstance. So even though the Nimuke Yosef is a rishon, and even though he subsequently brings an opinion that rejects this position, the Beis Yosef, in his commentary in Orach Chaim in the Tur, accepts that opinion. The Trumas Hadeshen, who was another rishon, discusses the question of whether a person who consciously missed the Zman Tefillah because he was involved in activities that would have otherwise caused him financial loss is also considered one who did not pray b'mezi. So, ironim or pkidim, officials or clerks, sholchu achrav or shalach matzma aleihem, and they were called by the authorities to come. Because of some debt. And they spent a lot of time with him debating and arguing. And he couldn't get out of the meeting. He would have a big financial loss. He had to have cocktails with them or drink a coffee with them, and he missed Zman Mincha. So the Shaila was asked of the Trumas Hadeshen, is that considered somebody who b'mezid missed davening and would not have tashlum? So the Trumas Hadeshen answered, Yireh, the shaper dami lispal arvishtan. He's allowed to do tashlumim. Avagav the kosru rav risa, even though it says very clearly, Heizi v'lispal tfilas achas bizmana shaveno tashlumim. The mu'uvas lo yichal l'takenu. It's considered something that can't be corrected. Nira, the Chai Gadol of mezid mikra v'dam l'oinus. It's like an oinus. It's like an accident. You can't get around it. Marina Nami b'per koma de brachos. He's hard b'tamid chacham sheshach talmud of machmas oinus. Have respect for a Talmid Chacham that forgot his learning because of illness. Perish Rashi, Shu Choili, he has some illness. O Nitra b'torach doichik mezoinus, or he's occupied with making a living, so he's forgot his learning. So Rashi considers trying to make a living similar to like being ill. Mordechai, the Mordechai is another Rishon. Prepare Kama de Shabbos, cause of Sheverutam, Ayode Maflikin Bisfina, that you may not depart on a boat within 3 days of Shabbos. The Machalek HaSefer Ben Hoylech L'Dvar Mitzvah, Ben Hoylech L'Dvar Rishus. And the author made a difference between somebody who's traveling for mitzvah or for personal business. The law mikri davar rishus elohoylech l'tayel. Davar rishus means like a pleasure cruise. Aval hoylech l'schora kedei larviach lezonis kosher l'dvar mitzvah. Traveling for business purposes to make a living, that's considered a dvar mitzvah. That's coming up in the future when we learn the laws of Shabbos. So traveling for the purposes, when it comes to this rule about the 3 days, you only can't go for Dvar Rishus, but for Dvar Mitzvah, you could set out within 3 days. And what he's saying here is that traveling for business is like a Dvar Mitzvah. So these are huge chidushim here. So similar, says the Tzurba M'Rabanan, if the guy was occupied by missing tefillah because he was involved in business activities, he would not be considered someone who missed it b'mezid, and therefore he would be able to have tashlumim. So huge halacha here. It's apparent from the Tzurba M'Rabanan that missing Zman Tefillah due to financial considerations, even though not halachically ideal, it's not considered that you missed davening with respect to tashlumim. Therefore, one may make up the tefillah that he missed. Says the Beis Yosef, lo mikri mezid, you're not called a mezid, al kishmavatal tefillah b'she'et b'nefesh b'lishum tir. That means you, without any thought, you should have davened. You just forgot to. You just didn't daven. You were lazy. It's not because you had other occupations. And the Shulchan Aruch rules in accordance with the opinion of the Nemukei Yosef and the Tzurba M'Rabanan, though the Ramo cautions that one should not l'chaklila plan to miss a tefillah for financial considerations. That means you've got to try not to miss the tefillah. But if so happens, that's what the Ramo is going to say. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim Kuf Ches Zayin Ches. Is it lo ispalo tefillah achas? Ein la tashlumin afilu b'tefillah smucha lo. If you were mazid that you missed, if you were intentional, then you can't make up the tefillah. Mish lo ispalo b'od sheyesh lo zman leispalo. Mnei shesover shadayin yishar lo zman achar shigmar so ezrik shemisasik bo. Person gets involved in an activity, and you think, you know what, I'm going to be finished with this activity before the Zman Mincha is gone, and I'm going to be able to daven. And you miscalculated. And now you missed it. So the Shulchan Aruch is going to rule that you can daven tashlumim. He got involved in a bank meeting and he couldn't get out of it. Now that's really amazing. Person got drunk. You'd think that would make him amazing. No. Even if he was drunk, so he's considered a nonus, and he would have tashlumim. That means he wants you l'chatchila not to miss the davening because of financial loss. The Mishnah Berurah adds 2 more scenarios in which tashlumim would be appropriate because they are not considered intentional negligence. If someone attends to one's business matters before mincha under circumstances in which doing so should have been forbidden. or selling merchandise. Mishnah Berurah says, also Asik. Va'afilu ma Asik hu me'advar b'niskorim b'simin reish lamed beis li'isur mishagias man tefillah. Meaning, a certain time arrives, which is the time for tefillah, and you're not even supposed to begin certain business activities. However, who is chil be'esik zeh be'isur? He violated that rule where don't get involved in something because it's man tefillah. Kivan shelo bitul tefillah, b'seit nefesh, but he didn't just throw away the tefillah with unthinking. The Mishnah Berurah says that still allows him to do tashlum. And he was buying or selling some of his goods, and that caused him to delay. That would be a reason to have tashlum. The Aruch HaShulchan adds that one may utilize the option for tashlumin, even if he was not delayed by a specific activity, but he neglected to perform the mitzvah in time. The Aruch HaShulchan explains that within the context of tashlumin, intentional includes only one who consciously decided not to recite the tefillah. It means to be amazed. Oh, I know it's now time to daven. I'm not going to daven. Right? Person got caught up watching a Dodger game. Lahavdil. And he missed man tefillah. Right? It didn't even come into his mind. So he was just lazy. Or he thought, I'll have time to daven afterwards. And he just forgot. Right? The forgetting is an accident. He's going to have a glass of wine, and he doesn't think he's going to become drunk. When he became drunk. Unless someone actually knew that this is now man-tefillah and said, I don't want to do it, and you're allowed to do tashlumin with the next davening. The contemporary Sefer Isha Yisrael brings some of the above cases as well as additional examples of one who did not pray on time, but neglected to insert a section of Shemona Esrei, such as Ya'aleh V'Yavo on Rosh Chodesh or V'tein Talamot in the winter. There'll be some more complicated, the footnote is just saying there's going to be later on more complicated issues like this. But he did pray. He davened mincha. But for example, he forgot to say Ya'aleh V'Yavo or V'sein Talamot. And he then failed to repeat the Shemona Esrei within the proper time. Now, normally, there are certain things in Shemona Esrei that if we don't say them, you don't have to repeat Shemona Esrei. But there are things that if you don't say them, you do have to repeat Shemona Esrei. So, let's say you said Mincha in its proper time, but you forgot to say Ya'aleh V'Yavo and it was Rosh Chodesh. And you're supposed to repeat Shemona Esrei, and you didn't. For example, if you forgot it in Ma'ariv, you would not have to repeat Shemona Esrei if you forgot Ya'aleh V'Yavo, because there's a special din that Bezdin did not do Kiddush HaChodesh at night. But if you forgot it in Shachar or Mincha, you do have to repeat Ya'aleh V'Yavo. So you do have to repeat the whole Shemona Esrei, and you didn't. This too, therefore, is considered unintentional, and tashlumim may be performed. You're allowed to do tashlumim. Now, we'll discuss. Now, let's say that night, let's say you missed mincha, and the Tashlum is two Myriv, but Myriv, it's not Rosh Chodesh anymore. So you wouldn't say Yalav Yovo, right? The reason you're repeating the Shemona Esrei because you didn't say the Shemona Esrei properly, because you got to say it with Yalav Yovo. But Myriv is no Yalav Yovo, so we'll see. I believe the din is that you do say two Shemona Esreis, but not with Yalav Yovo because it's not this man of Yalav Yovo anymore. Adam shenenas v'lo b'fshuso ispal tefillah Shemona Esrei. He had some reason where he couldn't daven. Kigon shayachoyle or shikor, bover's man tefillah. Oh, says the Isha Yisrael, shetra b'tefillah b'dover shetzarach lazar lispalo. He made a mistake in one of these things that you have to repeat Shemona Esrei. V'niskar lachar she'aver zman tefillah. And you only remembered after the Zman for Mincha left. Oh, sheshachal lispalo. You completely forgot to daven. You can repeat, you can say two Shemona Esreis during the next davening. By chinuch of a child, if he missed a tefillah, you don't have to do chinuch to make him do tashlumin. So from the sources we have seen, it is evident that in any case where a person plans to daven, but ultimately does not do so, even due to laziness, the solution of tashlumin may be utilized. This would include practical cases such as being drunk on Purim and missing mincha or marv as a result, eating at a restaurant and thinking that one would finish in time for mincha, but not realizing that the time passed, or lying down for a rest in the afternoon, waking up after the latest time for mincha, even if you didn't set an alarm clock. However, we still need to examine the halacha in the case of someone who did not daven because he was halachically exempt at the time of the tefillah, such as an onain, someone whose close relative passed away but has not yet been buried, who is exempt from positive mitzvos. So he wasn't a bar chiyuv at mincha, right? And then they buried his relative, and now he's a bar chiyuv. So does there have to be tashlumin? Or a soldier in the IDF who's on guard duty during the entire time span allowed for a particular tefillah, where you may not have a chiyuv to daven. So the first discussion of this issue is found in the Tshuvas HaRosh. Ma'aser Shira Avel Adoni Avi. The Rosh says that his father became an Avel. Shemeisful Yeled b'Shabbos. That his child had passed away on Shabbos. Shmona Yonim Kodem Rosh Hashanah. 8 days before Rosh Hashanah. So there was no burial yet. So there's no Avelis on Shabbos. There's no Aninus on Shabbos. Myself too, I became an Onin on the second day of Sukkot. You are Chayiv. I was Chayiv in Sukkah, I was Chayiv in Tefillah, I was Chayiv in Lulav, even though I was informed about my mother's passing second day of Sukkot in the morning. You only become an Onain Motzei Yontif. All the more you become an Onain. And certainly Motzei Shabbos you become an Onain, where you're potter from mitzvahs. So L'Motzei Shabbos lo yispala. He didn't daven Ma'ariv Motzei Shabbos. He didn't oinen shepoter menat tefillah mikol mitzvahs. Vein levarich lo hamotziv lo birchas hamazon. And oinen doesn't make brachos, not brachos before eating, not brachos after eating. Ulo achar shekavra meis, he's palal tefillah saboiker. And I guess they buried the child either early in the morning or actually in the middle of the night. About tefillah, and then he davened shachris.
You chayiv Havdalah afterwards?
No,
Did you make a?
not Motzei Shabbos. You're asking once
Yeah.
buried. Yes.
Oh, okay.
You are chayiv Havdalah.
So you said Havdalah and
Remember, because you're allowed to say Havdalah till Tuesday.
so when did you say Havdalah then?
No, I don't think
After you came from in Israel?
you didn't say it. You didn't say it.
There was no Well, you said
After-
Abdullah,
No.
you guys said it. It was Abdullah ben Kodesh l'chol hamoed.
Right, but you didn't.
I didn't say it. Jake said it, because I was not chayiv. And technically, no. Technically, the kvura was Thursday night. And then we went to Shoshana's house.
Yeah, so Jacob said. We were not-
No, Jacob said this, the question is, I probably should have made Abdullah for myself that Friday morning before I went to shul. Being Kodesh L'chol. No, I looked it up. I was aware of that at that time. Anyways,
But you were Yosef by somebody else's Havdalah, so you didn't have to make it.
I heard
even
it.
though yeah,
I
so
heard
that's
it.
you. So that would have been Yosef, you wouldn't have to make it then.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what Rabbi Rosenberg told me to do.
Uh-huh.
Anyways. Aval tfilas erev lo yitzpala kiven shavar zmana. He didn't daven Ma'ariv because the time of Ma'ariv had passed. Lo domi l'shochach. It's not the same as he forgot. Lo yitzpala arvish mispalim shachar shtayim. Kiven shemei sadin nifter b'layla mispalim. He was exempt. So according to Rosh, if a person is exempt, then there's no need for tashlumim, since he did not miss it, but was exempt, right? Unless you have a chiyuv, there's no concept of tashlumim. If there's no initial chiyuv, there's nothing to be mashlim. The Drisha in Hilchas Avelis expands this rule of the Rosh to any situation where a person is exempt from tefillah, such as if he's involved in communal needs. Right? Ha'oisik b'mitzvah, poter b'mitzvah. The same din would apply to people who are exempt for other reasons, like if you're oisik b'mitzvah. He's referring to the tour. And if the Zman of Tefillah already passed, there's no Tashlumim afterwards, leaves Palestine, Achas Tashlumim. While he was occupied in the mitzvah, he was potter from Tefillah. What do we care whether you're potter because you're an Avel or potter because you're Isaac mitzvah?
This would apply to you if you're doing emergency surgery and trying to mincha and you can't make it. You do the mitzvah of a rapper or your rapper, right? Or you're seeing emergency patients.
Yeah. Bernie is saying that if someone has emergency surgery during the time of mincha, so that's no different than the tzorchet tzibur, right? It's like you're certainly oisik in a mitzvah, so he wants to claim that you would be potter. And then you wouldn't have to have tashlumim because there's no chiyuv of davening. I want to let's investigate that more. I think it's a very good point. I think it's a very good point. I think a very strong argument that you can make that. But let me look around in some of the Makoros and ask some shilas. I think that's a very good question. Now, it's not so pashut that everyone accepts this concept, that because the Taz challenge is claiming that the conclusion does not match the proof. The Tamani, I'm wondering, he says, I'm surprised at the Drisha. Im Yotzat from Helmi Piosat Tzadi, that the Drisha could even say such a thing. The Hakolshu Oinus Mikri Potter Mitfila. That anytime you're an honest, you're Potter Mitfila. Kanamina Badei, the Nenes Bispalo Shtayim. Vein Dimyon Bezel Liftor Davelis. The Hosam Efshel Lolis Palo. The Yoshev Botel. The guy who's an Avel is just sitting and doing nothing. He could daven. The Chachamim Patru. The Chachamim said, because you're an Onen and you have to be taking care of the business of burial, Alkein Ein Shaykh Sham Tashlum. It's a ptur. Hashem can. There ain't bo p'tur. There's no p'tur of him davening. Ele sheyesh lavoinus, shlo yachol ispalel she'ein lo p'nai. He didn't have time to daven. V'avik k'mo choyle she'ein yachol ispalel or shikor. Kol ze mikri oinus. Given shu atzmo bar chiyuv v'hu. He's a bar chiyuv. Well, ze vare tiknu tashlumim. Okay, near lani is daiti pashu. So according to the Taz, the Drisha's comparison is incorrect because there's a distinction between missing a tefillah due to ones, where one must make it up, like you're sick, you're drunk, and missing a tefillah because Chazal ruled that he's exempt, in which case he has no obligation to pray in the first place. The Magen Avraham disagrees with the Taz, rules like the Drisha, that in every case of exemption, due to onus, because one is involved in a mitzvah or communal need, there's no need for tashlum. The Lokitaz. In practice, the Mishnah rules that technically the law is like the Magen Avraham, based on the Drisha, according to which there is no tashlumim for someone who is involved in communal needs. However, the Mishnah Berurah Simon 108 suggests that it's preferable for the person to pray a second time as a voluntary prayer and to innovate something in the prayer. That means technically you might be correct not to have tashlumim, but you're allowed to sort of donate a davening as long as you add some kind of chidush to it. V'masuk b'tzarchei tzibur, ayin in Simon Tzaddik Gimel b'Mishnah Berurah, ayin b'Kri Megadim. Listen, he missed the davening. He should be mashlamid. The tashlumim should be as a donative tefillah, not as a chiyuv tefillah. Like normally, the tashlumim is you had a chiyuv to daven, so now I'm making it up. No, I didn't have a chiyuv, but I'm offering another tefillah as a donation. The Yalkut Yosef also writes that one should ideally recite Shemona Esrei again as a voluntary tefillah. So Bernie's point as a doctor would fall in this category, since it's like Tzorchei Tzibur, that so you'd still daven, but it might be a different kind of daven, it'd be a donative daven. For an Isbar La'el, shall oisek b'tzorchei rabim potter mekriyash ma tefillah. Lefi chachamaya oisek b'tzorchei rabim v'giz man kriyash ma tefillah lo yafsik. If a person is, involved in Tzorchei Tzibur, and Zman Kriyash Shema comes or davening, you should not be mafsik what you're doing. Some hold that you're potter from tashlum. You should davenate tefillah tashlumim, but consider it as a donative offering. Okay, I'm going to stop here and allow for questions, comments.
Would there be a question about we should Ava on the tashlum? Let's say if you're in the surgery and it's for a low Yehudi, and then with that because of Ava, you could that's an excuse to continue on because of Ava, because we're talking about what seems to imply that if you
couldn't stop, you can't stop. That's you're going to kill the person.
Right. So, but let's say, or if it's a schedule, let's say it was scheduled and you're doing it for a non-Jewish person, but because of Ava, that would come in and be part of you from saying it on time. I mean, most of your surgeries
you wouldn't be able to stop operating because of Ava. Yes.
Yeah, because of Ava.
But I still think it would fit under the category of it's not better than Tzorchei Tzibur, where you're potter min mitzvah, potter min mitzvah, and yet they're saying that you should do a tashlumim davening as a donation.
I have a problem with the flip side. Yeah, it says if intentionally you did not daven a certain thing, you cannot do tashlumim.
If you intentionally, but we saw that bar is very. To be amazed is very difficult.
So that's
on the beach, and it's gonna be mincha. And you'd rather sit on the beach and not get up from the
Right,
side.
it's not that you're saying, I'm not walking away from my religious obligation, you just say, I'm having a good time. But I'm saying the other way around, go give him permission to say another shmona, so he can concentrate on Salach Lanu Avinu. Right, Kichotanu. You're davening an extra shmona esrei. There's a reason you're doing it, because you were admitting that you did a chet. So you have a chance in shmona esrei to concentrate on that. That's all. It's
Yeah.
philosophical.
And Echanami.
Why wouldn't it be a bracha levatala? I mean,
To-
if you're potter from the mitzvah and you're making all these brachas,
Because apparently you're allowed to
So it's like-
offer a davening in a donative fashion. It's not considered levatala.
so it's like women that can make a bracha on mitzvah Yisrael, that type
Exactly,
of thing.
exactly. Certainly not the bracha levatala, absolutely not. Because Ashkenazic women do, Sephardic women do not.
Right.
Absolutely.
So according to Rabbi Yaakov that we learned before, so customs that we have in shuls that no longer, the purpose of it no longer exists. For example, Kiddush Friday night in shul. Okay, started because people ate in shul, so he would mevatel that.
No, but for example, I see every week when they make Kiddush or Abdullah, there are people that come to shul, they don't have a place, they're travelers, they're doing Abdullah. It means, I think there's still a purpose for it. There's still people who are traveling, who don't have a family to go home to, or staying at a hotel, and they come to the shul and they hear Havdalah, they hear Kiddush, and they're motzi through that. So yes, I understand, they don't eat there anymore. So I remember a time, in the shtibel that I davened in, on 3rd and Sweetser, they would actually have, like, they would leave the sukkah that people would eat there.
Right.
People would bring food, right? The people didn't have their own.
Yeah, but they would have to make Kiddush in the sukkah anyway. So I mean,
No, but forget about so. But anyways, there are people that come to shul that rely on that public Kiddush and the Havdalah. I think even today, they may not eat in the shul.
but it has to be even Malcolm Suda anyway. So I mean, what are you accomplishing?
Well, that Kiddush is not b'malkum suda. Then later.
Unless you bring your food to eat.
No, so first of all, that was a custom that was established. Abe is saying, for example, Kiddush B'Malkum Suda, we fulfill the either in the morning, the rabbi will look at the Kiddush over there and there's cake there, and cake is considered Suda, right? They'll do it there. Right, they'll make Kiddush only at the place where there's food. Okay, that's in the daytime. You didn't have to make it. Wine is not considered so aid. Does not fulfill the Malkum Suda. But that's why the takana was done, to make it in shul. You're supposed to, the person listening in shul is supposed to have a kavanah not to be yotze through that kiddush. So you can come home and make kiddush for your family in the ala kos and b'malkum suda in a chanami.
No, but I'm saying the people that you're making it for, okay, the people that you say
So they are hearing kiddush, not b'malkum suda, unless you
Right.
hold that the wine fulfills that.
Okay, but they have to drink from it. All right.
So sometimes I've seen people are mocked, but they those visitors, they'll take a little thing and they'll pour
Right.
them. Okay, all very good points.